Welcome, everybody, to Downtown Harbor Church. If it's your first time here, my name is John. I am the lead pastor. Appreciate you guys coming on out. Happy Mother's Day. So today we're in week 3 of this series that we are calling Double-Edged Sword. Now, double-edged sword is a phrase that we use to describe something that can have both good or bad consequence. And so every week what we're doing is just looking at, phrases, sayings, concepts, truths even that can have a positive or negative impact on us. They can be harmful or helpful, depending on kind of how you look at it. And they can either be a trap or they can set us free. So to kick off today, what I want to do is I'm just going to list a couple of things on this screen. I'm not going to give you any context for it. I'm just going to throw it up there. And I just want you to sort of let it wash over you, all right? And then we're just going to talk about how it makes you feel. Ready? Okay, here it is. Get dressed for work, make breakfast for the kids, drive kids to school, Teams meeting, Zoom call, meet your quota, go to the gym, take a shower, wash your hair. Ladies, dry your hair, get car service, go to doctor's appointments, pay the bills, pick up the kids, drive kids to sports, go to Publix, cook dinner again, get kids bathed, get kids to bed, catch up on email, spend time with the spouse, watch Netflix, sleep terribly, rinse and repeat. Moms, you feeling that, right? Yeah, I'm going to guess that this list doesn't seem so far-fetched to a lot of you. In fact, I'm going to guess that your list actually looks a lot longer than this list. This is like the chapter headings, basically. So here's what I want to know. How many of you would say that at least occasionally you feel overwhelmed, right? Feel a little stressed. Like you feel as though there isn't enough time to get everything done. Is it fair to say that there are times in your life where you just feel like you can't handle it all? This statement right here is a double-edged sword. Because this statement, depending on how you look at it, can either be a trap or it can set you free. See, the source of this statement makes all the difference in the world. What do I mean by that? Let's say, for example, that your spiritual enemy, the devil, sees you struggling, sees you stressed, sees you overwhelmed, sees you with your head underwater, and he whispers into your ear, you can't handle it all. What happens? You feel like a failure. And you start playing what I'll call like the should game, which is the worst word in the world. I should be able to handle it all. I shouldn't be this stressed. I shouldn't be this overwhelmed, but you are. You are overwhelmed and you are stressed and you can't handle it all, which means he must be right. You're a failure. When the enemy whispers this into your ear, it harms you. It's a trap. But if God says you can't handle it all, he's actually trying to set you free. He's just trying to help you understand that he did not design you to handle it all. In fact, sometimes God allows us to have more than we can handle so that we can learn to depend on him. So let's pull up this nightmare list once again. Okay, look at that. And again, I have left so much off this list. If I put everything, we'd be here all day just talking about stuff we do. But for as important as some of the things are on this list, there's just something wrong with this picture. I mean, do you really feel like God intends for us to be consistently overwhelmed and overburdened and stressed out? No, of course not. And yet we are. When it comes to how we live our life, when it comes to how we fill our days, culture would say, hey, that's normal. That's just, this is normal. I would argue that God would call it insane, dangerous, maybe even sinful. Now, I'm going to make a big, bold statement because I have a burden on my heart about this particular issue, okay? Here's what I believe. I believe there are many people at DHC who are in a precarious position. You have taken on too much. You are doing too much. You tell yourself you can handle it, but you can't. And you know it, and you're suffering. You're emotionally suffering. Maybe you're even physically suffering, spiritually suffering. You have relationships in your life that are strained because of this, and you know it. Here's what else I know. I know that some of you are going to hear today's message, okay? You're going to, nod your head. You're going to give it the old Christian mode of affirmation, okay? And then you're going to let it go in one ear and right out the other. And you're going to go back to your insane schedule, and you're going to continue to suffer. That's what I know. But others of you, you're going to encounter Jesus today. And you're going to let him change your life, and you will be set free. So let's hear from Jesus. Here's what Jesus has to say. Matthew 11:28. Jesus said, "Come to me, all of you who are weary and carry heavy burdens. Come to me, all of you who are worn out, burned out, stressed out, and have too much to do, and I will give you rest." Some of you don't even know what rest is. Some of you are actually afraid to rest. Because when you rest, isn't it true? When you rest, you feel guilty. You feel like you should be doing something productive. When my father-in-law visits from New Jersey, he will literally sit on our couch. You can ask my wife. He will attempt to relax, and then like clockwork, he'll go, I feel so guilty. And then he gets up and goes fixes something. Last trip, he felt so guilty, he added a hose spigot to my sprinkler line. I don't know that. But it made him feel productive. There's just something in us that resists rest even when God offers it to us. Jesus continues. He says, "Take my yoke upon you." So you got to remember, Jesus was speaking to an audience that lived in an agricultural society, okay? Most of these folks were farmers. They knew exactly what he meant when he said yoke. Most of us don't. It's like, you talking about an egg yolk? No, that's Y-O-L-K. So here's a picture of a yoke. This is what Jesus is describing, okay? It's a wooden harness that joins two cows together so that they can go at the same pace, so they can work in the same rhythm. Now, why would Jesus tell us to yoke ourselves to him? So that we can work at his pace. We can work and live in his rhythm, because many of us are going much faster and are doing far more than Christ would have us do. So the big question for the day really is, okay, well, what do you do when you have too much to do? What do you do when you look at your day and your week and your month, when you look at your schedule and you just have too much to do? What do you do when all of a sudden someone whispers to you, you can't handle it all? I got a few thoughts for you. First thing we got to do is we got to recognize that some things need to be shared. Because we often think, I can handle it all, but God did not design you to handle it all. There's a great example of this found in the story of Moses. I introduced you to him last week. Okay, we talked about how his purpose in life was to lead his people. God used him to rescue the Jews from slavery in Egypt. He led them out into the desert, and then Moses became their leader. Well, one of his jobs as their leader was to be a judge. Let's call it that. Okay, our story picks up in Exodus 18. It says this. The next day, Moses took his seat to hear the people's disputes against each other. They waited before him from morning until evening. So think about this. He is the leader. He has a lot of responsibilities. Let's also not forget he's married. So he has work responsibility. He has family responsibilities. And from morning until night, let's call that, 10 hours, he's doing nothing but hearing these disputes. So his father-in-law sees this. Watch what happens. It says, when Moses' father-in-law saw all that Moses was doing for the people, he asked, what are you really accomplishing here? In other words, I see what you're doing, and you're doing a lot of it for a long time, but what are you really accomplishing? He says, why are you trying to do all this alone while everyone stands around you from morning until evening? This is not good, he says. You're going to wear yourself out, and people too. This job is too heavy a burden for you to handle all by yourself. So about a year ago, maybe about a year and a half ago, Adam Duckworth had a very similar conversation with me. So when we started Downtown Harbor Church almost 10 years ago, you might not know this, but when we started, I was the executive director. Adam was the lead pastor. And after about 3 years, 3.5 years, we really felt the Lord leading us to shuffle the deck, so to speak. So what we did was we shifted Christina Florio. Many of you might know her, some of you don't, but she was our kids director. We shifted her to become the worship leader. We shifted me to becoming the lead pastor, and we shifted Adam into the volunteer coordinator because we had so many volunteers that we needed him, with his expertise in that area, to run it. Almost immediately, we knew we had done the right thing because everything was like running smoothly. It was great. It was great. Until it wasn't. The problem was, I took on the role of lead pastor, but I never gave up the responsibilities of executive director. Okay, I'm doing 2 jobs, and I was sucking wind. To quote Shannon from week 1, if you were here, but it was kind of like, okay, it is what it is. This is my job. These are my responsibilities. I should be able to handle it, but I couldn't. I was suffering, okay? Adam saw this. And so one day he came to me and he effectively said to me what Moses' father-in-law said to him. This job is too heavy a burden for you to do all by yourself. This is not good. This work needs to be shared. And so he committed to helping me take on the responsibilities of executive director. And we shifted all the sort of kind of operational decisions from me to him. And since that moment, this organization has thrived. And I have sort of been set free to focus entirely on preaching. Here's what I know. Many of you are carrying burdens that need to be shared. Kind of doing what I was doing. Trying to do too much. You're not sharing the load. You say you can handle it. You tell yourself I should be able to handle it, but you can't because you weren't designed to. I like how Paul puts it in Galatians 6. Here's what he said. Share each other's burdens, and in this way obey the law of Christ. In other words, if you're a follower of Jesus, and many of you here are, and if you're also interested in doing what, Jesus wants you to do, then you need to learn how to share. Because some things need to be shared. Secondly, some things actually need to be stopped. One of my favorite stories in all of Scripture is about Jesus' two close friends, Mary and Martha. So one day, they have Jesus over for dinner. And Mary, one of the sisters, capitalizes on this amazing opportunity. And she's like, you know what? It's not often the Messiah comes over to your house, so I'm just going to stop everything and just spend some time with him. I'm going to sit at his feet. I'm going to listen to him. I'm going to learn. It's going to be wonderful. But Martha, it says, was distracted by all the preparations that had to be made. Okay, Martha's doing what most of us would do. Okay, she's running around like a chicken with her head cut off. She's like, oh, Jesus coming over. I got to do this. I got to do that. I got to get this place cleaned up. I got to make sure the food is perfect. I got to make sure the table is set perfectly. I got to make sure all the throw pillows are chopped. Okay, because guests care about that. She's doing everything. And she sees her sister, seemingly, doing nothing. So she goes to Jesus. And she says, Lord, doesn't it seem unfair to you that my sister just sits here while I do all the work? And I absolutely love how Jesus responds to her. And if you're someone here today who does have too much to do, please listen to what Jesus says. Martha, Martha, you are worried and upset about many things. For some of you, if you were to life verse, this would be it. This right here sums up your life. You're freaked out all the time. Your hair is always on fire. You got to get it all done. You act as though you're responsible for keeping the whole world going. You tell yourself, if I don't, nobody will. Got it. Jesus says, you're worried and upset about many things, but few things are needed, or indeed only one. Now watch as Jesus is about to drop a truth bomb on Martha. Mary, he says, has chosen what is better, and it will not be taken away from her. In other words, Mary made a choice. There were some things that she could have done, and Martha's got a whole laundry list of things Mary could be doing. There were some things that she could have done that she chose not to do so that she could do something better. And I really appreciate the fact that Jesus uses this term better because it challenges Martha to think about the choices that she's making in life. Because think about this. Martha chose to do something that she truly believed was important. In Martha's mind, this flurry of activity, this getting the table ready, getting the house clean, this, that, okay, was a worthwhile pursuit. But Jesus says, it's not. Right? He would say, listen, it matters, Martha, right? Don't get me wrong. What you're doing matters. It really does. But it's not what matters most. At least not right now. And it makes me wonder about our own lives. Like, what are you and I doing where we're telling ourselves, this has got to get done, right? This is so important. Like, I am convinced this is the most important thing that I need to be devoting all my time to right now. But if you were to just stop and consult Jesus, he would say, you're worried and upset. And what you're doing may matter. It's not what matters most. So Martha, in this moment, would love nothing more than to sit at the feet of Jesus. But she doesn't have time because she's too busy doing something else. So here's what I want to know. How would you answer this question? How would you fill in this blank? If I had more time, I would what? What'd you put here? If I had more time, I would take better care of myself. If I had more time, I would eat better. right? If I had more time, I would exercise. If I had more time, I'd volunteer at church. If I had more time, I would read the Bible. If I had more time, I'd actually enjoy life or my marriage or my children. So many of us have this constant refrain bouncing around in our heads. I just wish I had more time. I just wish I had more time. But here's the truth, and it's an uncomfortable truth. You have time for what you choose to have time for. And I know you don't want to hear this. I know looking at these words right now is making some of you annoyed. But this is the truth. This is essentially what Jesus says to Martha. Anytime we find ourselves saying, if I only had more time, let me tell you something. The problem isn't time. The problem lies in what you prioritize. The problem is that you're actually choosing something over something else. That's the problem. And so if you're here today and you could fill in that blank, right? Where you could say, if I only had more time, I would be doing this. Let me tell you something. There may be something that God has put on your heart that you're not doing because you don't have the time. But here's the harsh reality. That's a cop-out. I'm sorry. You have fallen into a trap. You do have time, but you're just choosing to put other things in that time. And I believe that Jesus would say to you the same thing he said to Martha. You are choosing what is lesser rather than what is better. You get to make the choice. You have time for what you choose to have time for. And listen, I get it. You have a lot of important things to do. You wear a lot of hats. You got bosses. You got this. You got that. I'm just telling you, some things are more important, which means some things need to be stopped. I love what Scripture says about stopping. Psalm 46 says, be still. I love that. Stop moving. Stop doing. Stop running around. Stop worrying. Stop working. Just stop. Be still. And know that I am God. The reason that so many of us are so overwhelmed, the reason that so many of you are faithful followers of Jesus, but you feel like you haven't felt his presence or his power in your life in a long time, because maybe you haven't made time for him. In other words, you've just been too busy to be still. In the original Hebrew, this phrase, be still, actually means something closer to like to slacken or to allow to sink or to drop. In other words, we might say, drop everything and know that I'm God. Because you only have 24 hours in the day. You can't do it all. Some things need to be stopped so that you can invest your time into the people and the places that matter most. Lastly, and we'll wrap this up, everything needs to be surrendered to God. Psalm 62 says something great. It says, my soul finds rest in God alone. In other words, my soul doesn't find rest in vacation, doesn't find rest in a bigger house or, a new kitchen or a fancier car. It can find some comfort in those things, right? But our soul finds rest in God alone. My salvation comes from him alone. Psalm 55 tells us to cast our cares on the Lord, and he will sustain you. In the original Hebrew, this word cast actually means to throw. In other words, we need to take that which burdens us, whatever that is, and throw it on God. But most of us don't do that. We'll cast our souls onto the Lord, right? We'll let God save us from our sins, but we won't let him save us from our troubles or our anxieties or our burdens or from our schedules. Instead, what do we say? I got it. I got it. I got it. I can carry them myself. Why? Well, because I can handle it all. No, you can't. And you know that. And that's not a personal attack. God just didn't design you to handle it all. You're doing too much and you know this. And the enemy just loves to whisper into your ear, you can't handle it all, because he knows that messes with you. He knows that makes you feel guilty and less than. And so what do? You try to prove him wrong. And so you do even more, more and more and more. But what are you accomplishing? So if you're here today and you are struggling, okay, don't listen to the enemy. Listen to God when he says you can't handle it all. Because God isn't judging you. God is trying to set you free from this trap. He's trying to tell you that some things need to be shared, okay? Because you weren't designed to do them alone. He's trying to tell you that some things need to be stopped so that you can focus on the most important things. And he's asking you to trust him. To trust him with your burdens. Allow him to sustain you because you are weary and you are burdened. And he just wants to give you rest. So, it's practical. What do you do with a message like this? It's your first time here at Downtown Harbor Church. Every single week we put this word on the screen because we want to make sure you can leave on a Sunday and know exactly what to do with what you've heard. Now, chances are most of us can relate to today's message because we are busy people and we do have a lot going on and we do wear a lot of hats and our schedules are jammed and we tell ourselves we should be able to handle it, but it's clear we can't handle it. So here's the big question I have for you. What radical change do you need to make? Okay, if you're going to live life differently, if you're going to yoke yourself to Jesus as he invites you to do life at his pace, at his speed, with his rhythm, then what radical changes do you need to make in your life, with your schedule, with your decisions? Now, chances are, many of you are going to say, well, I don't actually have to make any radical changes. Honestly, I just need a couple of small tweaks. Got it. Understood. Okay, here's what I know. You all are smart people. You're very capable people. And if some small tweak, some small change would have solved your problems, you would have done it years ago. So let's stop kidding ourselves, okay? At the top of the message, what did I say? Some of you are going to leave today and do nothing with what you've heard, even though you've been nodding your head and saying, okay? Others of you, you are going to listen to Jesus. You are going to be set free. You're sick and tired of living like that. So to you, I ask, what radical change do you need to make? It's going to look different for all of us. I mean, maybe for you, you need to make a decision to move into a smaller home so that you can become a one-income family because that's going to allow you to prioritize something that God has put on your heart. Maybe for others of you, you got to make the decision to become a one-car family. Just so you don't feel that financial pressure. I just spoke with someone after the first service. That's exactly what they're doing in their situation. Maybe others of you, you might need to put your hobby on hold 6 months to a year. Because right now your kids need you. Right now your husband or your wife, they just need you right now. You're married, okay? Maybe for you need to find a new job. Because even though it's filling your pockets with cash, it's robbing you of everything else. I don't know what it's going to look like for you, but I'm telling you, it's going to require a radical change. Because the way that we've all been doing life is destroying us. You know it. Jesus says, "Come to me, all of you who are weary and carry heavy burdens." That's the majority of us. Come to Jesus, it says. But not in some cultural Christianity kind of way. Not the, hey, we went to church on Sunday, we did the Jesus thing. Jesus is not inviting us to come to him in some superficial way, but in a radical way. So it's Jesus, since we belong to you, then you lead us. You show us how to do things. No longer are we going to do what culture expects of us. We are going to follow you and do what the Bible expects of us. And we're going to surrender everything to you. Because you will take care of us, you will sustain us, and you will give us rest. Let me pray for you.